Hi, my name is Lauren Carey, and today I will be presenting on my Black Pop Culture Journal entry number 5. I fully understood the terms that were defined in Chapter 8 because I was already familiar with art forms such as music, dance, visual art, literature, newspapers, magazines, radio, and television. One thing new that I learned was the difference between elite, folk, and popular culture. Folk culture is especially interesting to me because it focuses on oral-based forms of expression. In this slide, you'll see definitions of elite culture, folk culture, and popular culture. When I think of the word ritual, the first things that come to my mind are weddings, funerals, and graduation ceremonies. Prior to this class, I had never heard of conspicuous consumption, and I definitely did not know that it was a ritual. Just this past week, I was watching the movie Drumline, so it's kind of ironic that Black college marching bands was brought up this week. I love to see Black college marching bands perform, but never knew that their performance was considered a ritual. This article was very interesting to me because I did not have any prior knowledge of African American wedding ceremonies in the 1800s. This article mentioned a recent bride who was only 14 years old when she was getting married. This really took me back because I'm 20 and I can't really imagine getting married right now, let alone being 14-year-old me marrying somebody. I learned through this article that people married young because if their parents were deceased, they needed that spousal support. This article was written by a white woman from the North, so her observations were filtered by that lens and sometimes contained stereotypes such as, for the Negroes are a tropical race and especially susceptible to any rhythmic influence. The information about the burying was really interesting. I learned that a lot of the graves were decorated with bits of broken glass and china and old bottles. I thought that was cool that they paid their respects by decorating with things that they had. Another interesting fact that I learned was that sometimes the funeral will be preached several months or even a year after the burying to accommodate friends and family who might have a long way to travel and to allow plenty of time for the preacher to write an appropriate eulogy. To be honest with you, I've never read a comic. I've never held a comic. I've never bought a comic. I don't really know much about comics. So it really surprised me to find out that there are things like Black comic strips. I simply didn't know they existed, and I also didn't know that there were types of Black comic strips. After reading this article, I learned that there are 3 types of traditional Black comic strips. Comedy, also known as gag, family, and action. It was also interesting to learn that 2 narrative strategies or rituals often found in Black comic strips are integration and order. One thing left that I have after reading these articles is I wonder how many Black comic strips were published, and honestly I would love to see some more, specifically rare ones. You know what made me mad? The way African Americans were portrayed in these comic strips. It made me angry to see the negative stereotypes, such as the Maybelle comic strip. This is an example of a Black comic strip. It's called Maybelle, and as you can see, it is perpetuating Black stereotypes because of the exaggerated features. I like this comic strip for 2 reasons. The first reason was I liked the humor, and I liked how the little girl always got the last word. And my second reason is I liked that Magnolia lived in a nice home with both of her parents. I really enjoyed the Boondocks and Mama's Boys comics. And I really enjoyed this class and this week's articles. And in close, never forget that Black Lives Matter.